Good morning, Riverside. How's everybody? I know this is not everybody that's in this building, right? They're all just having breakfast and just kidding. Happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy your meals, all your meals today, because you might have breakfast, lunch, and dinners, depending on what you're doing today. Um, and I want to extend, on behalf of Dr. Hanson, to everyone in the district, a thank you for all that you do for Riverside Unified School District um, students, and especially around the holiday season and the love that we extend to all of our colleagues and our students. So Dr. Henson currently is at a school site and was not able to be here for this meeting. So I'm here to cover for, I think, most of cabinet members. My colleague, Dr. Lewis, is here, so I just want to make sure that we say that we are the ones that showed up this morning. I'm just kidding. They're all here somewhere in meetings. Good morning. I'm working on fumes, yeah, because we did not really finish the meeting yesterday till around 10:30ish. We finished the meeting and then we debrief and we prepare for a circle meeting so that way we can all be able to give you an update about some of the actions that took place last night. So our first action, this is a special meeting for the year. It is an organizational meeting. So this is the time of the year where our board elects a new president for the board, a new vice president, and a new clerk, and the other two become board members. So last night, the new president for the board was elected is Mrs. Alavi, and the vice president was Mr. Tom Hunt, and the clerk is Mr. Brent Lee. Mrs. Locke Dawson and Dr. Farouk now are board members. And so we just want to congratulate them and wish them a great year until the next December. So with that organizational meeting, they also do two other organizational meetings that we sometimes use during the year. 2019 happens to be a year that we did not do anything under the Riverside Unified School District Board of Directors for the Facilities Corp and for the Financing Authority. And again, we didn't have a lot of actions during the year, but nevertheless, every year they have to reorganize for those two board of directors. And what happens is the same slate that became the president, vice president, and the clerk becomes the chairman and the vice chairman of the new boards. So the president and the vice president. So that's what happens with this two board of directors. And Dr. Henson becomes the executive director of that board, and I become the treasurer just by being the chief financial officer for the district. And so those took place yesterday too. And so that was the most exciting news for the organizational meeting. In closed session, we just wanted to make sure that we let you know there was reportable actions out of closed session, and that was because the board authorized 3 purchase agreements in the area of the east side of the district in order for us to start planning for an elementary school in that area. And so we authorized 3 lots, and those APN numbers were published out of closed session. It's close to Lincoln, between, I think it's on Park and 14th. And we had, if Ryan can help me with this one, if you need to add something to it, we had a great ceremony and recognition for assigning that the district took a partnership with California Baptist University. And this is, this is just one of many that we will be engaging in. And I think we have it already with Cal State San Bernardino, that we as a district are committing to give rigorous education to our students starting in 9th grade to make them ready for college in 12th grade. And in return for that, California Baptist University will guarantee admission for students with 2.5 GPA or above. They will also actually give them waive of fees for the application. They will give them a $10,000 scholarship and a lot of support with the application process. This is great thing for our students. So our commitment is exactly what we want to do anyway. So really, we're not putting a lot more resources. This is our mission in our district, is to prepare our students for college and career ready. And by committing to that, we're getting a guarantee admission for our students that choose Cal Baptist University. And so that was great, and thank you, Cal Baptist, for committing to that. I just want to thank the president, Dr. Ellis, and all of his team, and our team in educational services for making that partnership happen. The next item are also exciting. Actually, everything is exciting in this agenda. I don't know if you see it as I see it, but our CTA, CSEA, and management tentative agreements, we were able to take to the board tentative agreements for total compensation of 1.29%. Many of you have heard it from your respective bargaining units. Our CTA took our benefits between, our 1.29 between benefits and salary a little bit differently than CSCA. Anybody that has any questions regarding that, you can see me after or send me an email and I'll give you the details. And it is actually attached to the agenda. Management was taken at the same time too, an effort to make sure that we all continue to stay competitive, we all continue to stay attracting and retaining our best staff at all levels. We in this district try to keep us all within equitable compensation increases. So management is also 1.29, along with support staff and certificated staff. Management chose to do exactly as our certificated unit proportionate. Classified is a little bit different because they put majority of it on the health benefit cap. So the total compensation is the same, but each bargaining unit has the authority to split it in a way that they see fit for their constituents and their members. So if you have any questions about the details of that, please let me or Kylie know, and we'll be able to give you that information. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop a second and see if there's any questions and pick up the piece that I dropped. Any questions from the audience too? Okay. Board policy, professional adult student boundaries. So this is a new policy that we took, and it seems like, it seems so common sense that we all should have a professional relationship with our students, right? And it is, but we needed to make sure we actually explicitly say what are the examples of violating a professional conduct between an adult and a student, and we actually delineated that in our policy. So I'm just going to say, in this world, in this trusting environment that we try to embrace, sometimes people take advantage of that, and we just wanted our employees to be protected, and we want them to follow that policy in order for us to continue to be following the professional conduct that the government and the school districts would expect. And so, for example, one thing that would be not acceptable, and it would be considered a violation, is keeping and maintaining a personal relationship and a contact, for example, on a social media between an adult and a student. If that is part of the educational program and that's actually how they exchange educational things, that's different. And if it's equitable between all students, that's different. But if it's a personal relationship on a cell phone, a personal relationship in a social media setting between an adult and a student, according to this new policy, that would be a violation of professional conduct. So there is examples of what that means in this new policy. It was adopted yesterday. It's necessary for us to make sure that we educate all of our adults. We have all ages, and all of us perceive professional conduct between an adult and a student differently. So this is an effort to clarify what the district expects from that. Does that make sense? Is there any questions about this policy? Okay. Next item is another exciting item. No. So this is the time of the year that we update our budget. And if you remember, last time we talked about financials was the adoption of the budget back in June. And so this is the time where we close the books in September. We find out what drops into the fund balance as carryover. We add that carryover to revenue or the fund balance, and then we book the expenses that were supposed to happen last year, and it didn't, and we add it to this year. So the expenses go up because some of the things did not materialize last year. Let's say we were supposed to order books by June and receive them to be ready for the next year, and you end up not receiving a shipment by June. You actually have to take that expenditure from the last year, which is 18-19 school year, and book it in 19-20 according to the accounting rules because you didn't receive it. So if you didn't receive it, you can't expense it. So we have to take it to this year. And therefore, the revenue that was supposed to go with it has to be carried over, and it makes our numbers updated. And in the first interim report, we show all of these updated numbers to the board. And we also show it to the sites and departments so they know what the carryover and what expenditures and how their budget will be changed. So with that, really not much change as far as the intent of the budget for the year, except for that. And we continue to file a positive certification with the County Office of Education and with the state. So that was the first interim report. It was a lot shorter than a lot of other presentations. And then we have the Measure O citizen. I'm doing all of the items that I can do, and then I'm going to turn it to the last item for Dr. Sosa to take over. Citizen Oversight Committee annual report. Not sure if you know what a Citizen Oversight Committee does. So I'm going to just go briefly and let you know that the Measure O, which is a measure to receive funding for facilities in our district based on a ballot that we took to the voters in 2016. We authorized $392 million worth of bonds to be able to issue those and actually build facilities in our district, acquire sites, and renovate and modernize the existing sites. And so with that, the law requires, under that proposition in particular for bonds, the law requires us to have an independent oversight committee. And it requires us to have an annual audit for that committee. And one more thing, and I'll come back to it. So with the oversight committee, one of their requirements is to give an annual report to our board, because our board of trustees are the ones that are going to appoint that committee. And so once the members are appointed, throughout the year, they conduct business, and their business is very, very specific. It's to make sure that our expenditure report for facilities out of Measure O is matching the projects that they said to the voters that are going to go out and do. So when we went out for 2016 ballot, we said to the voters of Riverside that we will acquire, construct, and modernize sites within our school district boundaries. We also issued a facilities master plan that kind of gives the voters an idea of the needs in the current schools. So the needs in our current schools are in a facilities master plan that's so thick. When you download it on our website, you'll see that each site has a lot of needs that's beyond actually what we can do out of this measure. This measure is $392 million in totality. Over the next 10 to 12 years, we'll be able to issue all of the bonds, and we'll receive matching funds from the state that will make it about $666 million program within the next 12 years. But the need in our district, according to Facilities Master Plan, is about $1.4 billion. And so with all of the money that we have available for us, we might not be able to do everything that we need to do for our district, but we will do, as you know, the essential things first. So there's a prioritization of projects, and the projects have already started 2.5 years ago as far as planning. They started in construction for at least 5 schools this year. And so that committee looks at expenditure report and makes sure that what we spend is according to the projects that are authorized by that ballot. And so Mr. Fram is the chairperson of the committee, came and reported to the board that the annual report the essence or the conclusion of it, that the district is actually complying with what they told the voters they would do from Measure O. And that was presented to the board in a very short presentation. And there was a few questions to our legal counsel and to the chairman, and then we ended the meeting with that. Right after that, we had, or before that actually, we moved the dashboard presentation to the front. We are, in this district, our core mission is to educate students, and therefore data that gives you information about how are we doing with educating our kids is our number one priority as far as giving that information to the public and the board. So even though it's an exciting meeting and had a lot of other items, dashboard did go up and they were able to do the presentations first. So I'll refer to Dr. Sosa to give some detail about that presentation. As he was coming up, thank you, yeah. Do we have any questions up to this point? Or if you do, if you want to form a question right after Dr. Sosa, myself, and Dr. Lewis can answer any questions regarding the meeting.
Thank you, Mays, and good morning, everybody. Here, good morning to you at the school sites. So last night I had the pleasure to speak to the board. It's something that we get to do once a year to share with the board our successes on our dashboard. So the California dashboard, I think we throw that term around a lot. Us as educators, it can get kind of jargony. But really what it is, it's our public accountability system to tell our community and our stakeholders how our students are doing, as May said, in our core mission of educating our students. So there are 7 indicators. I won't go into the depth I did last night. I just want to give you kind of a high-level overview. The indicators are everywhere from academics to culture and climate to connectedness with college and career. And so we started out with sharing about the English language arts 5x5 indicator, and we're so proud to report that the district has made substantial growth in ELA for this year. We'll be in the green performance color, which is really the target and where we want to be. We had almost 5 points of distance from standard growth, and we're just a hair away from the average score being standard met. So we test, just to give you some context, we test 22,000 students every year. And so that level means that the average is standard met. And so we're really proud about that, getting very close. Thank you to all the hard work in Ed Services, and in particular to the school sites and the students for really digging in and understanding the Common Core standards. So next we went to mathematics. For the area of math, we had modest growth. We had 1 distance from standard point that we increased there, but we had 2 student groups in particular that made really tremendous growth, and that's students with disabilities and African American students in math. So we're really pleased, and we highlighted that. The next indicator we talked about was our college and career indicator, and this is by far one of the most complicated indicators we have. There are 7 ways a student can demonstrate preparedness within this indicator. And something we mentioned to the board last night was that is really meaningful because it demonstrates how within our system there's lots of paths for kids to be prepared for college, career, and world readiness. And those paths are only going to expand over the next years to include paths like workability and things like that to really broaden out that aspect of what it means to be ready for the world. So for our college and career readiness, we were super excited that we met and exceeded our targets, and in fact, we're at the green performance level in CCI as well, making 2.1 points of growth within that indicator. We had 4 groups that made outstanding growth more than anybody else, led by foster youth. Our foster youth kids grew by almost 30% from last year. Just a ton of work that's going on by those youngsters and teachers and support staff that are supporting them. Chronic absenteeism is something that we also spent a little bit of time and talked about. This is an interesting indicator in that it's only kindergarten through 8th grade. High schools are measured on a different platform for this, so we only look at the chronic absenteeism of those youngsters, and that's students who are absent 10% or more of their enrollment here at school. We had a slight increase as a district of 0.2% within chronic absenteeism. For those of you at the site, you know that you're continuing to talk about chronic absenteeism and ways to help bridge those gaps and remove those barriers with students getting to school. Because we know it just makes common sense. If you can't get to school, it's really difficult to do well in school. So we focus on that. But a couple of groups that made growth, again, foster youth and homeless students decrease their chronic absenteeism. Those are really vulnerable student groups, and we're really excited about that. Suspension rate is the next indicator, and again, this is one where we experienced slight increase. Chronic absenteeism and suspension are ones we want to actually decrease, whereas all the other ones we want to increase. So we like to make that distinction when we talk about that. We had a couple of groups, students with disabilities and African American students, who decreased their suspension rates. We continue to look for ways, as you do at sites, to help students with other means of correction and to help students with behavioral needs and really meet that through the MTSS framework. The next indicator is a brand new one, and that's called the English Learner Progress Indicator. Sometimes we refer to it as ELPI. It's a brand new indicator. It's super complicated, but just to say that it's a growth indicator that measures how our students are acquiring English language. There is no 5x5 for this. It's brand new. We just have a status, and so I shared with the board what the status is for that one. The very last one to end on, and this is probably the most exciting one, was graduation rate. You may by now have already seen the press release that went out. I had the pleasure of telling the board and the community that Riverside Unified School District has the #1 graduation rate in all of Riverside County for unified districts, and we have the #1 graduation rate for the 16 largest districts in the state. We're 97%. That deserves a huge round of applause. That's years of hard work, building systems to help make sure that we're accounting for every student and we're giving students opportunities to be successful when they leave us here. So that's what we talked about, and it was a pleasure to meet with the board. Are there any questions that I could take real quick about the data? Yes, ma'am.
Where can the public see the data?
Fantastic question. So the public can see the data in a number of ways. Two of the ways I'd like to drive you are to the California dashboard itself. There's a link on our website to see the California dashboard. But you can also see our internal measures, our internal metrics on the RUSD dashboard, which can also be gotten from the slider on the bottom of the homepage. And I encourage everybody to go there and see the great work that's going on in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dr. Kaiser. So I will take also a few more questions if you have any. I did receive a question about a little bit more clarification regarding the raise for our bargaining units and management and confidential. And when does that start? So that 1.29% total compensation will start for benefits. If the bargaining unit chose to put it on benefits, it'll start January, because our benefit plan is an annual plan. So we actually have an open enrollment in November, and we choose which plan we go into, and it starts January 1st. So your January check at the end of the month will reflect no? What are you saying, Reen?
December check comes out of their December.
Does it come out of December check? Okay, so the December check is going to pay for January. You're right, because we start the new year. We do take it in advance of the month. So December check will have the deduction of the new rates. Now, the rates have gone up. So, for example, I'm going to give you just a lot of details could be asked of our risk management department, and Rita is sitting here. She is the guru on that. But I'm going to answer just the general ones. Many of us are in Kaiser and in an EPO plan, right? The one that we have a self-selected network. Those are the most popular. Majority of our people are in those. in all employee units. So EPO plan went up $111 per month. And so for the full annual year, it would be a little over $1,000, right? So our classified staff have chosen to put their compensation towards that. They will have, they will not see any increase. Our certificated and management staff have chose to put $40 towards it, so you'll see an increase of approximately 61 and probably some change, um, or 71 and some change to do the math right. So that's for the EPO plan. Kaiser, for example, if you were in Kaiser as a classified and we just put $111 a month towards your cap, you will see a slight decrease to your Kaiser rates if you were classified. If you were a certificated or a management person in the Kaiser plan, you will actually see an increase, but it would have been lesser than whatever increase you would have gotten without an agreement with the bargaining unit. So we've added $40 in the certificated and teachers unit. All of that is pending ratifications, by the way. We just approved it by the board to be ready for it, but it is still going to be ratified by the bargaining unit. So we do things sometimes not in the exact order, just to be ready and meet the payroll requirements. So a lot of it is still pending approval by the bargaining units. But for certificated, it'll be $40 towards that cap a month. So it's 400 annually. And it will be offsetting Kaiser. Kaiser increase was going to be about 60 some dollars. So it's not as a higher increase, but they already have an out of pocket where EPO plan was zero, if you remember. So Kaiser will have some relief. To the increase or total relief if it was classified. So that is for the health benefit plan. So that will be implemented in December if everything gets ratified. For the salary portion, depending on where you put the salary, all of the salary increases will be implemented for the January paycheck. Now, because this salary increase is actually effective July 1st, for some bargaining units, they will get a retro check because, again, in the certificated unit and management, they chose to put on the salary schedule more than classified, and so you'll get a retro check. The retro check takes a lot of manual work by our payroll department, so it actually might not happen till March, but it'll be reflective of July 1st to December 31st, right? Because that's the time where we've reached an agreement, but the paycheck that was affected and actually was implemented is January. So we'll have to recover the 6 months for you in a retro check. And that will be, we're going to try for February, but most likely will be March. And we will send a notice on the paychecks and send a notice to our employees with the details once everything is ratified and approved by everybody that needs to approve those tentative agreements. Some of the agreements have to go to actually district level of our bargaining units, whether it's CTA or CSEA, and for management, we'll go ahead and implement for management because it's been, once the board approves it, it doesn't go anywhere else. Okay. Is there any, did that clarify? Is there any questions about that? No? Okay. I must have been very clear, even though I'm an English language learner, Ryan. You're teaching me well, too. Okay, so anything for the good of the order? Any other questions? Any jokes? Do you have a joke, Ryan, to cover for Tim? No? Anybody else? Me too, I'm not funny. When it comes to jokes, I'm not funny. So, with that, because I butcher them and they come out so wrong. So, what I would like to end with that it's really like the best season, my favorite season, which is the winter holiday. I know there's several different holidays that we celebrate depending on what our beliefs, right? And so, I just want to wish everybody a great time and great holiday time, winter break with their families on behalf of our board and our superintendent and the rest of cabinet. It's just, it's very much needed to reward all of our employees with all of the great work that resulted in all of the data you just listened to. This is so much to be proud to be the district with the highest graduation rate. It's just, I know it's one indicator, but it's an indicator of a lot of work that goes behind it. And to be the 16th largest district in the state and to be the number one in that group in graduation rate, it's not something to be taken lightly. So we're going to flaunt it all year until next year when we see that it goes up a notch, and then we'll flaunt that too, right? So thank you and enjoy your holidays.